Oh, look at me. I'm a Bears fan. We like ourselves there, that Russell Wilson that you guys got there. We need ourselves a little bit of a quarterback. Why don't you give him on up over to us? No. Come on now, there. Don't be so like that. We're the Bears. We're a blue blood organization in the NFL. We're blue bloods. Blue bloods. Blue bloods. Blue bloods. I don't care. No. Come on now. Why you gotta be so uptight up there in the Pacific Northwest? You guys are way too rain soaked to be so upset. Just hand them on over. No. We'll give you the haul of the century. You're not gonna beat this from the Bears or anybody else. Come on now. You know what? Take your hands off our quarterback, you misbegotten, misrun joke of a franchise. Go find your Hall of Fame quarterback somewhere else. Go steal from someone else. This one's taken. Couldn't find a Hall of Fame quarterback if you had 32 first-round picks and there were 32 quarterbacks in the draft. Pathetic misrun mother. Hello, and welcome to the Hawks Nest. My name is Brandon. Thank you for watching as ever. Well, we started out this offseason as Seahawks fans with a mighty dark cloud that has been hanging over us throughout. Hell, it even started before the offseason began. In the Super Bowl, the day of the Super Bowl, when we got reports that the Seahawks were actually getting calls about trading Russell Wilson. And this was on the day that Russell Wilson was to receive his Walter Payton Man of the Year award for his off-the-field charitable endeavors. Something felt weird. Something felt off. There's no way this could be true. Certainly, the media is just trying to drum up some clicks. And as easy was to say to ourselves at that time and the corresponding days, Russell Wilson went on himself a media tour from hell. Going to any media outlet he could go to, leaking through his agent to any media outlet he could leak to, his dissatisfaction with the Seahawks currently, his frustration, the want to be able to have a say on personnel matters and coaching hires, the lack of liking to be hit so much, needling, poking, twisting the knife a little bit on the front office and Coach Carroll. And all of us Seahawks fans held our breath. It's like watching your parents fight. You didn't have a want or will for either of them to win. You just wanted them to just get along. Can we go back to just getting along? And it got worse and worse, and that momentum picked up further and further and further. And then we had a trade list of teams that Russell would go to, usually a death knell when those players give you the trade list of teams they would go to. It didn't stop from there as things turned darker and darker with the front office leaking reports that Russell Wilson had, like a petulant child, stomped out of a meeting mid-year after he couldn't get his way. We started to wonder, could the impossible happen? Could the unthinkable occur? For when you started this offseason, there appeared no way, no justification, no chance that Russell Wilson could have been traded. But then with every single day and every leaked report from one side and the other, it became almost to a point of seemingly near certainty that Russell Wilson was going to be moved. And you waited for a calmer head to prevail. You looked at this unfortunate situation and you said, somebody can fix this. Somebody can stop this. This doesn't have to occur, for it is a mistake. It reminded me of moments in my own life when I had the chance to halt a mistake, stop a bad from happening, and I didn't. Like the time when I was sledding in the back country of Montana and I decided to make this big jump. Took the jump, landed, smacked my head on the back of the ground, blacked out, and nearly killed myself in sub-zero temperatures. Or then there was the time I hit my dad with a line drive baseball. Could have maybe seen that one coming. Oh! My bad, Dad. My point is, this could have still been fixed It didn't have to go this way. All it took at this point was some compromise, for some cooler heads to prevail, for adults to come into the room and truly try to find their way through on this. And thankfully, Mom and Dad are talking again, because the thing finally did get halted in that 11th hour. They got close. John Schneider went on a plane to South Dakota because naturally, whenever you're going to do the deal of the century, you do it in South Dakota. And after watching Trey Lance's pro day, the very talented quarterbacks coming out in this next draft, a quarterback who Seattle would undoubtedly look to potentially target if they were to move on from Russell Wilson, John Schneider met with the Chicago brass and they tried to hash out a deal. And Chicago came in with a mighty offer. 3 first-round picks, 3rd-round pick, Akeem Hicks, and Khalil Mack, one of the better edge players in the NFL. It's the best trade offer that's ever been offered in NFL history and makes the Herschel Walker trade look like a pittance. And Seattle took that offer and went back and slept on it, and Coach Carroll slept on it. He called up John the next day and he said, "You tell them no. He will remain." And I'm glad they have, because while there is intrigue in a rebuild, there's intrigue in the new. The best potential future in the immediate future, the best potential hope for Super Bowl in the immediate future is that sees Russell Wilson remain here as Seattle Seahawk. And hopefully now, with all of the chatter and talk and all of the problems laid to bear publicly, all the dirty laundry sitting across the yard strewn, hopefully this means now that our Seahawks can come together, that Coach Carroll can come together with Russell Wilson in a meeting of the minds and actually find compromise, find a place where this relationship can be mended and they can find the best version of their partnership as we move forward into the future. I am very hopeful for it. I think there's a good chance of it. There still may be a chance that he is moved on from at some point. But at the end of the day, the offer that had to come down to make this deal work was the equivalent, in my opinion, of 5 first-round picks at least. 3 first-round picks would be about the value of Russell Wilson plus on his own without contract parameters having to be thought about. But you needed to also have 2 first-round picks to make up for the $39 million in dead money hit. Whoever traded for Russell had to pay for the dead money hit in addition, not just the talent of the player, not just the production of the player, but the dead money the Seahawks would sustain in moving on from him. And that offer that Chicago gave was a good one, but not quite the equivalent of 5 first-round picks, not quite to that mark. Now, if they had reached a little bit further, it would have been interesting to see if that would have been enough to push Seattle over the edge. And that is why I'm still not yet completely calm in believing that Russell Wilson's going to be here for the foreseeable future, because some team could come through and try to blow Seattle out of the water, even going above the offer of what the Bears just gave. And we always have to remember here with these 3 first-round picks they were offering, the first one, which will be probably the highest pick, was the 20th overall pick. The man that they were going to see the pro day of, being Trey Lance, is not going to probably last till the 20th pick in the first round. There was no pathway for Seattle to get their next quarterback here, their quarterback of the future. And make no mistake about it, I believe that Coach Carroll and John Schneider are very enamored by the thought process of replicating what they had done at the beginning of their regime here in Seattle. Getting a young quarterback on a young talented quarterback on a cheap deal, and then building out the rest of the team around him essentially, with an onus built behind building up a very nice, talented, deep defense. I think Seattle will go back to this eventually at some point. I think they are going to, if the right deal comes along, they will jump on it. But thankfully right now, Russell remains. Thankfully, this is going to hang tight. And it looks like, at least with the first few moves that they've made in free agency, that Seattle has an eye to maybe mending some fences here. Free agency kicked off this year, and with the Russell Wilson situation just sitting there stewing, it added even more anticipation and nervousness to the potential moves Seattle made. Whatever they might do would be an indication of where they are relationship-wise with Russell. He says he doesn't want to get hit this offseason, so you would think, just logically speaking, that if they were looking to mend those fences, they would want to get him some offensive line help. You do that by putting together an offensive line that can pass protect better than you have in the past. Now, Seattle was overall for the season last year a good pass protection team, but definitely fell off in the back half of the year. It was a tale of 2 halves. upper level in the first half, bottom level in the second half. So we want to get a little more consistency there. We want to show Russell that we're going to try to keep him a little bit more upright. You win a great, nice step in that direction, getting a guy in Gabe Jackson, who you bring in now on a $9 million deal for this year. He has been playing right guard recently for the Raiders, but he started out his career at left guard. He played left guard all throughout his college career. Very fluid at that position, very fluent at that position, and he should be a very good fit for this offense. Last year, he didn't give up one sack, according to Pro Football Focus, though he did give up 29 pressures, which is a decent amount. But that still is a good indicator right there that he will be a far superior, a vast upgrade to what you got out of Mike Iupati last year, who, while he still could move guys off the ball in the run game, I think had really started to backpedal in pass protection due to the fact that his ankles are being held together by Elmer's glue. Seattle followed this move up by going out and bringing back Ethan Posick, their own free agency, back into the fold on a 1-year, $3 million deal. I like the move. Smart move. He's a guy who you know can be a functional center for you. Played in, I believe, every game last year, so actually showed a bit of durability, which has been a problem for him in the past. He's got the flexibility to play probably either guard position if you get caught in a pinch. So these things are good value from that respect. I would still expect them to address the center position, but this opens it up for you to be able to do that if you need to in the draft. But if there's a better position or better value in the draft that pops up where you might be looking to get a center, you can go that way instead and feel okay about Ethan and where you're standing on that. I think it interestingly could open the door to a guy like Landon Dickinson of the Alabama Roll Tide, Alabama, because he's going to be a guy who's coming off an ACL surgery, a guy that's probably a first-round talent if he wasn't coming off the ACL surgeries, if he didn't have the medical background that he did, but a guy who will fall to where Seattle will be picking in the second round, and who is a very clean prospect, a guy with Pro Bowl potential, a guy to be an upper-level center in this league. That's exactly what I think we would be wanting to look for. You bring him in, you have him battling it out with Ethan Posick. We get back to the days of competition being king, which is where Carroll was at his best with this team. Those 2012, 13, 14 teams, yeah, they had a lot of stars, but it was a lot of competition to get to those stars, earning those spots, earning the starting places that they had taken over. So great indication here that Seattle is looking to appease Russell Wilson, that they're hoping they can mend these fences. It does look like Russell Wilson on initial indicators being that he liked to post about Gabe Jackson, and then he has now resumed saying, "Go Hawks," that he would be willing now to maybe come back into the fold and maybe see if they can try to make this thing right and put it back together. His best future I've always maintained, and Coach Carroll's best future I've always maintained, is them together. They are not necessarily the perfect pairing and match, but they're a match that can work if done right. If both of them can come to kind of a compromised state of things, they can really still flourish, I believe. And you have so many years of background, so much years of knowledge and learning each other, that to me, you can still tap into that and take advantage of that, especially if we start to give them some of the things we've asked for. The one thing I wanted to see this offseason was, even if this is going to be Russell Wilson's final year, hopefully not, that Seattle truly, for once, fully dialed into trying to give him that best offensive line that he's ever had in his career. To see if in giving him a top-level offensive line from the week 1 part of the season to the week 17 part of the season, or what, we're going to go to week 18 part of the season now, means that you would have that consistency throughout the year, and maybe you'd allow him to flourish in the way he did in the first half of the year when he had that upper-level pass protection throughout the whole year into the playoffs, and hey, hopefully even a Super Bowl. I love that they're going in this route. I would love to see them go even further with another offensive lineman. I think it'd be a great step in the right direction. I want to see them right this ship. I want to see Russell Wilson here for years to come and having MVP seasons and winning Super Bowl championships. And I think this is the way you do it if that outcome is attainable. The first move that Seattle made in free agency before any offensive line signings was one Achilleo Witherspoon. And boy, this one actually, as being a good signing as it was, had everybody initially a little bummed out. We were like, oh man, I wanted me some Joe Thuney, but I guess Achilleo Witherspoon's okay. And this is actually a good signing. 1-year deal, $4 million. You're not having to commit long-term to this guy, a guy who's only about to enter here, really turning 25 years old, still a very young player, picked in the 3rd round in the same draft that Shaquille Griffin came out of. He's a guy that's been up and down in his career. The rap on him coming out of college in Colorado was he was great in coverage, loved playing the cornerback position, didn't like he so much the tackling part of the job. And that has carried over a little bit into the NFL game. Not the best of tacklers. But when you look at this deal and understanding that he still has some upside, he played his best football last year, as you would expect a guy going into being 25 years old in the prime of his career to start to play his best. And by the Pro Football Focus rating scores, he had an 80 grade, good for sixth best in the NFL. Now, he only played in 11 games. He didn't start every one of those games, but that's still pretty good data to go off of to think that there may be some upside here. He'll have familiarity with the scheme and the kick step and all that because San Francisco, for all those years there, played in Seattle's scheme, despite the fact that they did translate a little bit into the wide nine a couple of years ago. So it's a good fit from that standpoint. Not going to need a learning curve. Not really expensive, not a long-term commitment on a prove-it deal. You always love prove-it deals in the NFL because it keeps those players on edge, doesn't have them comfortable, has them just biting at that apple, trying to get a bit more. So that's a good thing to see. And when you value this or when you judge this up against the value of what Shaquille Griffin was just paid, where he's going to average a little bit over $14 million a year for 4 years, 3 years, and then you understand that you essentially got a player, in my opinion, who is probably on par, if maybe even potentially a little better than what Shaquille Griffin is, at essentially about 1/3 of the cost without the multi-year commitment. It's not hard to feel very good about this deal in that respect. This is the part of smart roster management that you see with those teams that are able to eventually get to the Super Bowl. It's not just the stars, it's getting the great value for the pennies on the dollar, something that we've pointed to often as we head into this offseason. My favorite signing so far into free agency, and one in which I think Seattle has completely hit the ball out of the ballpark, is the signing of Gerald Everett from the St. Louis Rams. Now in Seattle's offense, there is a call for two types of tight ends. You have one type of tight end that you would call your inline tight end. This is your traditional guy. He's going to be 6'4", bruiser, 270 type who can block defensive ends, get nose to nose with them, as they say. And usually you're going to have a couple of these guys on your roster. But then you're also going to have an in-between guy, a tweener, a guy that sits somewhere between a wide receiver and a tight end as far as his body type's concerned. Rather than 270, he might be more in that 240, 245 range. A little bit better blocker than a wide receiver, but a little bit better pass catcher than a tight end. This is what they call that H-back role. And it's a very specified role in this modern NFL and one that is very intrinsic to Coach Waldron's offense coming over from the Rams, one you absolutely need to have because you are going to utilize him. And this is a fascinating player to look at from that respect. When you watch the film of him with St. Louis, very good, solid hands, very good route runner, just a good fluid athlete out there. He's able to make high point catches. He's able to do a little bit of blocking. He's not going to be dominant in that role, but he's going to be good. He gives you an all-around good game, only 26 years old, still a very young player, and you got him for a 1-year, $6 million deal. Again, good value. I know many of you out there will go, but wait, we just gave a 1-year, $7 million deal to Greg Olsen. Isn't this commiserate with that? Isn't that the same? Apples for apples and all that? No, it's not. Greg Olsen was a 32-year-old tight end who had multiple times broken his feet and broken those feet in non-contact injuries. It was one that I pointed to at the time when you signed him as, man, there's a good chance this could come up again. Aging players who had multiple injuries to the same spot can have that happen even more likely now as they get older, and that's exactly what happened with him. He was done. He was cooked. This guy's 26. This guy's not had so much mileage taken off his engine as Olsen had throughout his career. This guy's got a little bit left. And again, you're getting him for less than you paid Olsen last year. No multi-year commitment. It's hard not to look at this deal and see complete upside with it. It allows the ranks of your tight ends to all fall in line now. As Disley becomes your single inline guy, Colby Parkinson from Stanford last year becomes your second inline guy, a guy, by the way, the Seattle Seahawks front office reportedly had a first-round grade on last season. And then now your joker becomes Gerald Everett. As well as it helps, and it's always nice to take a little bit of talent away then from St. Louis at the same time. They continue to drain talent from the coaching staff, drain talent from their personnel, and that always puts a nice big smile on my face. Here is the only thing that has me just a little bit concerned now as we go through the rest of the offseason. I do like the 1-year deal for Everett. I like having Gabe Jackson on a 1-year deal. It's nice to have Akilio Witherspoon on a very good 1-year value deal. These are good value deals. They're not going to cost a lot of money, but you're also not able to massage that money anywhere down the line. it sort of holds things off. And Seattle stands right now as having one of the most available amount of cap spaces as we move into next offseason. It would be nice in a year like right now, where the cap's been lowered down to $182.5 million off of $200 million, to be able to maybe get a few more players squished up underneath this cap. And maybe you push a little bit that on to next year as you have all of that space. But Seattle's not yet showed that indicator yet. And these one-year deals, as tough as it is for me to say on this, do indicate a little bit that the door is still open for potentially the Russell Wilson trade next year. Because if you were going to move on from Russ next year, what you would do is you'd want to clear out a bunch of cap space. You would not convert his base money to bonus, which Seattle has all the control in the world to do, and not any reports as of yet that they have done that. But if you do convert the money to base, it does mean that you have that $39 million cap hit next year, instead of going down to something like $26 million, goes back up to $36 million as a dead money hit if you do move on from him next year, because there's better trade value out there. There's a team maybe in the top 5 willing to give you that capital, a team Wilson's willing to be traded to. But if you were mending these fences, if you thought this was going to be a long-term thing, you might look to more of the multi-year deals. And I hope we start to maybe see a few more of those, taking advantage of the future cap to be able to clear the cap space, because throughout this offseason, there's going to be so many good players available. The cuts are going to continue to come through all the offseason. And so having cap space, having flexibility is going to be very beneficial if you can continue to maintain it throughout. You're going to get a lot of players for a very little bit of money. But as it stands right now with these one-year deals, you're eating up basically all the cap to make it happen. And now you throw Ethan Posick on top of it, and it's all squished up pretty darn tight. I think these would be little indicators that maybe they're looking into next year and Russell Wilson being, and they're going to try to make it work this one more year, but they would be looking at that point to move on from Wilson. I hope that's not what they're doing. We'll see what other follow-up moves that they have to go on here. I will say this as well, though. If you are going for it this year, then go for it. Go for it. Hit the rocker boosters. Smack that NOS button. Because doing a half-measure approach to going for it this year when you're meaning next year to blow it up is going to only mean that you're going to be in a mediocre state next year. That your highest end is going to only be a 10-6 season or 11-5 season, because you're not really truly going for it. Going for it would be to squish that cap space. Going for it would be to make a few sacrifices for tomorrow, for today. And I would like to see them do a little bit more of that to try to make Russell happy. Because there seems to be indicators here with him that you're not willing to make that trade. You're not willing to say yes to the biggest draft haul of the century. Okay, if that's the case and you want him here, then make him happy. Buy into that process. Go whole hog. Stop doing the half measures like you did last year. You did the one-year deals last year, the 1- and 2-year deals that you could get out of it anytime if you got finicky. Let's go long-term. Let's squish that money down. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs this year, they're going for it again. And they go get one of the best guards on the market in Joe Thuney, and they get his cap hit down to $4.5 million. Just the type of move you would have liked to see our Seahawks make. And you're looking around at the NFC West right now, and it continues to be a nuclear arms race. The Cardinals have had a pretty good offseason so far. They're making moves, signings, putting a team in place that's going to be trouble. And while I do think the Rams have gone back a little bit, they still did add Matt Stafford this offseason, who smart football minds are telling us may have some upside that we haven't quite seen yet once he gets out of the fog of Detroit. And we know the 49ers are just sitting there laying there in the weeds waiting. They're waiting and waiting to strike a Deshaun Watson with their fangs. And once they do, we're in some trouble if we've half measured this offseason. Not say nothing for the NFC, say nothing for the rest of the NFL, this division. It is my biggest wish. It is my biggest hope. It is my biggest prayer. It is my biggest Hail Mary that they go all in this offseason, that you do everything you can now. There is no tomorrow. Now is the time that you keep the franchise quarterback here. Now. I hope they do that. I hope they take their steps, throw the 3-year plan out the window, and let's go. All right, that'll about do it for us here today. I appreciate you watching as ever. We just crossed 4,000 subscribers, and you guys are amazing as we do this at a seemingly breakneck pace. Every time I turn around and look, the numbers just keep going up. So thank you as ever for watching. Thank you for liking. It also helps this channel grow. So if you like this video, please do slam on that like button. Gets all the other Seahawks fans out there who are on YouTube looking around. They can find me now. So that helps me out. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate y'all having the faith. I saw many out there wavering, but you guys held on. And that's why we are a loyal fan base. They want to say, oh, y'all jumped on the bandwagon when Russell and Carroll came along. No, we didn't. We've been here the whole damn time. Y'all are loyal as hell. This offseason's tested you to your limits. But keep that faith, keep that love, keep that spirit. A brighter day is coming. My name is Brandon. I appreciate you for watching, and don't you ever forget, go Hawks.